Bill Cosby, sentenced to life in prison. Yes, you heard me right, life. The man once hailed as America's dad is now being handed the kind of goodbye you don't come back from. And the whispers coming out of that courtroom? Oh, they're not whispers anymore, they're a full-blown scream that's echoing across the internet. But wait, how did we get here? How did the sweater-wearing sitcom king, the guy who taught America how to laugh without swearing, end up shackled, shamed, and staring down a future with more prison jumpsuits than red carpet tuxedos? Because, my friends, this isn't just about one verdict. This is about years of buried secrets, political favors, late-night cover-ups, and a paper trail that could choke a filing cabinet. The kind of dirt that makes even Hollywood's dirtiest scandals look like a spilled latte at Starbucks, and according to anonymous insiders, the kind who won't confirm or deny but will absolutely spill tea in exchange for a pumpkin spice. Latte Cosby's final goodbye was not just a sentencing. It was an execution of his legacy. So buckle up. We're about to pull back the velvet curtain and drag the whole truth into the light. You ever hear the phrase America's dad? Well, apparently, America's dad just got grounded permanently by the US justice system. But this ain't a slap on the wrist. Oh no, this is life without parole for Bill Cosby, the man who once told kids to eat their pudding and now is being served the coldest justice pudding of them all, in a cell. And let me tell you, the story leading up to this sentencing is the kind of Hollywood downfall that makes Netflix documentaries salivate. We're talking about a man who once wore ugly sweaters on primetime television, who smiled like he had the whole world in his hands, but behind the scenes, allegedly, and according to enough anonymous sources to fill a stadium, Cosby was running his own twisted empire. The show might have been called The Cosby Show, but insiders swear it should have been titled The Conspiracy Show. See, the sentencing wasn't just about that trial everybody's heard about. Nope. If you thought this was just a rerun, you're wrong. This was the grand finale, the season-ending twist no one was ready for. Prosecutors came in hot, slamming down a stack of secret files, hundreds of pages of lost police reports, dusty FBI memos, and even an alleged celebrity guest list to some extremely questionable private events. The kind of events where cameras weren't welcome, NDAs were thicker than the Bible, and the punch bowl. Let's just say you didn't drink it unless you were ready for your memory to get as fuzzy as one of Cosby's sweaters. But it gets deeper. One court insider, who I'm gonna call Deep Sweater because obviously I can't reveal their real name, told us that the judge didn't just throw the book at Cosby. The judge slammed an entire library on him. This is for every victim, every cover-up, every year you thought you were untouchable, the judge reportedly said before handing down the life sentence. And in that moment, the courtroom fell silent. No applause, no gasps, just the sound of Cosby adjusting his suit jacket one last time, as if he was still in control. Spoiler alert, he wasn't. And you know, the media vultures were circling. TMZ, the Shade Room, even that one gossip page your aunt follows on Facebook. Everyone wanted that final shot of Cosby being led away in cuffs. But here's the kicker: before leaving, he allegedly turned to the press row and said, "This isn't over. Excuse me, sir? You just got sentenced to life. The only over you're about to see is the prison yard curfew bell." Still, the rumors are wild. Some say Cosby's legal team has a plan B, a massive tell-all memoir allegedly titled America's Dad, the truth they couldn't handle. Others claim he's already negotiating an exclusive jailhouse docuseries with a streaming platform, desperate for content. And then there's the whispers about his alleged black book, not the Hollywood star kind, but the dangerous kind. A list of names, dates, and scandals so explosive that if it ever got out, we'd see more celebrity mugshots in a week than in the last decade combined. And let's not forget the legacy wipeout. Remember when reruns of The Cosby Show were on every channel? Well, now, every station is speed deleting that footage like it's a virus. Sponsors? Gone. Endorsements? Burned. Even the Smithsonian's African American History Museum quietly removed a Cosby exhibit, allegedly replacing it with a giant question mark and the caption, "What went wrong?" But the most unsettling part, the sentencing brought out people from every corner of Cosby's past: old co-stars, college administrators, even people who said they worked on catering at his parties in the 80s. And they all had stories. Some heartbreaking, some infuriating, some so bizarre you'd think they were fan fiction, until 3 other people backed them up. One former sitcom staffer claimed they once walked in on Cosby holding a casting call in his dressing room. Except no cameras, no script, and no one else in the building. Another swears they saw hush money checks, big ones being hand-delivered to certain guests the morning after one of those infamous parties. And as these stories flooded the courtroom, the prosecutors just kept nodding, like they'd been waiting years to finally say, "See, we told you so." By the end of the day, it wasn't just about the charges he was convicted of, it was about decades of alleged abuse, manipulation, and a carefully constructed public image collapsing in real time. And yet, the defense still looked smug. Almost too smug. Like they knew something we didn't. And that's when the bombshell twist landed, a twist so jaw-dropping the reporters in the gallery literally stopped typing mid-sentence. And just when you thought the Cosby saga couldn't sink any deeper into the swamp of jaw-dropping absurdity, in comes the exclusive courtroom leaks, and baby, these aren't your average TMZ clickbait screenshots. No, according to a very chatty, anonymous court aide translation, my cousin's best friend's nail tech, the final sentencing wasn't just about justice. It was a full-on, made-for-TV production, complete with Cosby trying to deliver one last comedic monologue before the judge slammed down the gavel like it was a WWE championship belt. Picture this: Cosby shuffling up to the stand in a beige prison jumpsuit that looked like it had seen more drama than an entire season of Love and Hip Hop, Atlanta, holding a folded paper speech that, according to whispers, read like a tragic sitcom script. He tried to charm the room with a hey, remember the pudding pops? But honey, the jury's faces were carved in granite. No laugh track, no smile, just the slow, cold burn of justice being served on a silver platter. But oh, here's where it gets better. My sources say that right after the sentence was read, the courtroom doors mysteriously locked. No one in, no one out. Why? Because apparently the DA had new evidence that made the original charges look like a speeding ticket. We're talking decades of alleged hush money payments, celebrity cover-ups, and even an underground safe in Cosby's old estate filled with VHS tapes labeled in handwriting so messy it could pass for a Jackson Pollock painting. And you guessed it, rumor has it that safe wasn't just full of tapes. It had stacks of untraceable cash, old ledger books with names that would make Hollywood implode overnight, and brace yourself, signed letters from politicians thanking Cosby for his discretion. Yeah, discretion. That's the word they used. Makes you wonder, was Bill just a comedian? Or was he a walking blackmail machine? Public reaction? Instant chaos. Social media exploded like someone had just leaked Bianchi's unreleased album. Twitter threads turned into mini documentaries. Instagram live streams had everyone from ex-cast members of The Cosby Show to people who once saw him at an airport in 1993 giving their exclusive takes. Hashtags like hashtag pudding pop prisoner, hashtag Cosby confidential, and hashtag lock the laugh track trended for hours. And here's the kicker: the prison where Cosby's supposed to serve life, which, let's be real, at his age might mean the next 3 to 5 years if he's lucky, has allegedly been told to prepare for high-profile inmate protocols. Translation: they're scrubbing down a private wing, painting it beige, and putting in a brand new flat-screen TV because heaven forbid America's former sitcom dad miss an episode of Jeopardy! But don't think this is all happening quietly. Oh no, in fact, according to the leak du jour, several very famous names from the entertainment and political worlds have been suddenly taking extended vacations overseas. The kind of vacations where you don't post on Instagram and your lawyers tell reporters you're unavailable for comment. Could it be that Cosby's little vault of secrets is about to drag down a whole celebrity food chain? Because, honey, if those tapes see daylight, there are going to be Emmy winners hiding in attics and senators begging for early retirement. And just when you think the scandal meter can't go any higher, bam, another twist. The same insider claims that right after sentencing, Cosby requested a final media interview before being escorted to his cell. The condition? No questions about the crimes. Instead, he wanted to talk about his legacy. Legacy. Yes, the man just got sentenced to life and is apparently still thinking about his Hall of Fame speech. Naturally, the interview didn't happen. The DA apparently laughed so hard they had to take a 5-minute recess. But if there's one thing Cosby has made crystal clear, it's this: he's going to go down swinging, even if it's with a punchline. And folks, here's the dark little cherry on top. Whispers from behind the courtroom curtain say that the judge's gavel moment wasn't even the real finale. Nope. In a scene so dramatic it could have been written by Shonda Rhimes, a sealed envelope was handed to the bailiff right as the courtroom adjourned. An envelope with one word written across it in thick black marker: Confessions. What was in it? No one knows yet. But my source swears on their Wi-Fi router that the envelope was taken straight to the FBI's Special Crimes Archive, a place where evidence goes in, but never comes out. And this, my friends, is where things take a turn from scandal to historic implosion. Because if the whispers are true, this wasn't just about Bill Cosby, it's about to pull back the curtain on decades of Hollywood's dirtiest little secrets. And here's where the so-called final goodbye started turning into a final bloodbath. Because just when everyone thought Bill Cosby would quietly disappear into some high-security nursing home with 3 meals a day and a prayer circle, oh no, my friends, the man allegedly started negotiating from behind bars. Negotiating what, you ask? His own legacy auction. According to one unnamed but spiritually exhausted prison staffer, Cosby had already contacted select Hollywood elites to pre-sell exclusive rights to his final public statements, his prison memoirs, and, I kid you not, the sweater from that infamous sitcom. You know the one. The ugly Christmas on acid knit that somehow became his brand. And here's the kicker. Bidders weren't just A-list celebrities. Nope. Our source claims there were politicians, tech billionaires, and even a couple of suspicious royal family middle cousins trying to get their hands on these items. Why? Well, apparently there's a whole shadow market for infamous memorabilia that can be leveraged as political bargaining chips. One very chatty inmate swore that owning a piece of Cosby could be used to curry favor in certain dark money circles. I'll let you chew on that for a second, but if you think that's wild, wait until you hear about the alleged farewell deal Cosby supposedly tried to cut with certain TV networks. Multiple anonymous producers who definitely sounded like they were recording their interviews under a blanket for it revealed that Cosby pitched a final televised apology special. Except here's the problem. It wasn't really an apology. Our inside leak says the script, which was reportedly reviewed by several executives, started out tear-soaked and humble, then gradually shifted into a bizarre hour-long roast of the American justice system, Hollywood, and for some reason oat milk. Yes, oat milk. Because apparently, in Cosby's mind, it symbolized the watered-down morality of the modern era. And folks, if you think audiences would have been horrified, you'd be wrong. Because leaked test screening notes, which totally exist and are not a figment of my caffeine-soaked imagination, suggest that 42% of viewers actually found it darkly entertaining, which means, of course, the internet started buzzing with conspiracy theories that this life sentence was all part of a giant rebranding tour. Meanwhile, outside the prison walls, the streets were boiling with protests. But these weren't your usual neatly printed poster protests. Oh no, we're talking full-blown performance art of outrage. There was a man dressed as a giant, handcuffing himself to the courthouse gates. A group calling themselves the Sweater Avengers staged a 48-hour knit-in to symbolically unravel every piece of fabric representing Cosby's TV years. And in the ultimate act of petty vengeance, one bakery offered free Justice Jell-O shots to anyone who could prove they once owned a Cosby DVD. But the biggest shock came when a certain high-profile whistleblower who we'll just call Deep Coco released what they claimed was an internal Department of Justice memo. And according to this memo, Bill Cosby's sentencing was never intended to be purely about his crimes. Instead, it was allegedly part of a broader cultural cleanup operation targeting legacy figures whose public downfall would serve as a cautionary spectacle. In other words, an example, a warning shot, a televised morality play for the masses. If true, that means Cosby's final goodbye wasn't just personal. It was political theater of the highest order. And let's be honest, doesn't that explain so much? The way the story dominated news cycles for weeks, the suspiciously well-timed leaks, the perfectly choreographed outrage on both sides. This wasn't chaos. This was production value. And then came the ultimate cliffhanger, reports of a mystery visitor arriving at the prison in the dead of night. No ID, no press, just a long black coat, dark glasses, and a briefcase handcuffed to their wrist. 10 minutes in, 10 minutes out. Nobody knows who they were. But the next morning, Cosby was suddenly moved to a secure medical facility under reasons labeled undisclosed. Now, some say it's because of health issues. Others, and I'm leaning toward this camp, believe it was because something was exchanged during that midnight meeting. Something that either bought his silence or guaranteed his story. would one day come out in a way no one expects. So here we are. Bill Cosby, a man who once sold himself as America's dad, now closing out his days as America's most complicated cautionary tale. A man whose goodbye is less of a whisper and more of a controlled detonation. And whether you see him as a fallen icon, a dangerous manipulator, or the tragic center of a bigger cultural script, one thing's certain: this story isn't over. Because if history has taught us anything, it's that when the cameras stop rolling, that's when the real scenes start playing out behind closed doors. And judging by the smoke still curling from this mess, the credits haven't even started yet. And just like that, folks, the gavel has fallen, the curtain has closed, and Bill Cosby's final chapter has been written in bold, ugly headlines. But I have to ask, are we really done here? Or is this just the tip of an iceberg so massive it's about to sink the entire Hollywood good old boys ship? You've heard my take. Now I want yours. Was justice served? Or did the system finally eat one of its own for show? Drop your thoughts below, tear that comment section apart, and while you're at it, like, subscribe, and hit that bell, because the truth doesn't wait, and neither do we.